So I'm Dave from Thomas Jacks, and today we have the privilege of coming out with an expert in the field of ornithology, and it's Matt Pryor. He's already written a few blogs for us on our website, but we're helping Matt today with the use of thermal to find snipe.
Yep.
All right?
Yep, this is a lovely little nature reserve right in the middle of a large town, and it might look like we're stood outside a shed, and that's because we are. But this shed is brilliant because it stops us from scaring the birds away that are on the nature reserve that's here.
And the bird that we want to see is snipe, quite elusive, camouflaged. That's why I've got the thermal.
Everything about snipe is about remaining hidden. So I might look a bit silly because I've got two pairs of binoculars, it looks like.
Yeah.
But if I look through my normal binoculars, I might see one snipe if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Well, like with the thermal binoculars, the mergers, I can actually see everything that's there because they shine, on the settings I have, they shine white. So what I'll do is I'll often use both pairs of binoculars.
I guess you're using the thermals first, found
Absolutely.
it, and then you've got your binoculars on them.
100%. That's what I do. And the great thing is, it means I can see all the birds are on there, record what's there, and not have to go out there and flush the snipe and disturb them. So that's why I look a bit way down with two pairs of binoculars.
I'm itching to see them. Should we go in and have a look? So how long has it been here, the hide?
This hide's been here around about 6 or 7 years now. And it's really helped us view the birds because then we're not going to disturb them when we're looking at them and trying to make counts. So if you look out on those islands, they're snipe. Now, if you actually look without the thermal, you can't see a thing. This is where the thermal is absolutely incredible for doing this sort of monitoring because you can see birds that are obviously cryptically camouflaged. So everything about what they're doing is to hide. They're in day roost at the moment, so these things are sleeping down by day, and then in the evening, just at dusk, these are going to fly out and to a nearby field and then feed by dipping their bill right into the ground, and they'll be taking worms primarily. So I can't see any jack snipe, and unfortunately here what's happened is the gulls have scared a lot of birds off. So
these ones here are just snipe?
Those are snipe. Jack snipe would be much smaller. If it was jack snipe, the chances are that they would be bobbing because they like to do a little bob. We don't know why, but they bob their head and their whole body up and down. Right. It's a very strange action, but that's what they do. So I'm just checking everywhere here.
They're not the sort of bird that would be swimming on the water. They'd be wading.
They'll occasionally
at the edge.
They'll occasionally swim, but they want to hide in vegetation. So what we do on this marsh, it's a little bit unlucky because the rain we had last week really increased the water levels. So on this marsh in front of you, you can see all those islands of cut grass. This was the water margin a week ago. So the snipe like to sit as near to the water as possible, but what they like to do by day is ideally sit pretty still and look like a bunch of the reeds that are cut. That's why their patterns on their wings look like they do. And then what they'll do, they'll kind of take a minute or two each every now and again, and they'll walk out into the sort of stubble and they'll just have a little feed. And then they'll come back and then they'll hide. So what's happened now in the last week with all of the rain is actually flooded them out from the bits where they do their daytime occasional feeding. Right. So what we've got here is just a few that are left that are just roosting up and just getting through. And then tonight they'll feed heavily. But you see snipe can vary enormously with their weight. So they can be 95 grams, they can be 120 grams. So those that have obviously a really good weight, they won't need to feed in the daytime. Okay. They can stay absolutely cryptic, hidden, and not waste energy and not risk getting harassed by gulls or getting predated by a peregrine or a sparrowhawk.
And are they in a small group for safety?
I think so. So one of the key things is when I misnet here, and I misnet these snipe about 2-3 times a year, and the two poles that are here poles that I use to put the mist nets on.
And that's a really big net that they fly into?
Yeah. And so what we do is I put those nets here, and I now know that the snipe come in here. I've always known this, that they come in way before dawn, and they will come in and they'll roost in this area to the right. So we strim this each September, get it perfect for snipe to day roost. Then what I'll do when I misnet it, I then put the nets on the poles, and then the snipe come in, and hopefully you catch them. Now, what I realised with the thermal was that I came in here and I watched them, and I thought they used to come straight in over the hill and straight into the marsh. With the thermal, I realised that was rubbish. What they actually do, they actually come down and they gather on this little island in front of us.
Yeah.
And they gather there and they socialise. It's almost like they're forming a lek, which is a thing where males all get together and display to the females. So they come in here and they're really sociable.
What sort of numbers are we talking?
25, 30.
Okay.
And then what they do, just before dawn, they hop across this piece of water and then they pop into their day roost. Now, some do come straight into day roost and some will come in and socialise, but because I now know exactly what they're doing, that enabled me to very slightly change how I set the nets. So it really increased my catch rate. So it actually doubled my catch rate here, which, let's face it, when you're trying to catch snipe, you don't want to cause big disturbance. You want to come in here and just catch them once or twice a year, get the best value in terms of getting the birds ringed or catching the retraps that you've caught before. You don't want to keep coming here and catching 5 and 6. I want to come here and catch 10 to 20 per go, be very efficient, only disturb them twice in a winter, and get really good data.
What sort of data are you finding out about the birds with all these repeat ringings? Because you've been doing this for a long time, years and years, haven't you?
I've been catching snipe here since...
You must be seeing a change in numbers, change in, I don't know, males or females or age, or whether they're likely to be coming from, I don't know, can you tell whether they're here all year round or whether they're coming in from Europe?
I can definitely tell you they're not here year round because we are looking for them. So snipe breed in June normally is about sort of the ideal month throughout sort of Europe, and here we get the odd straggler into May, but we don't get them after then. So we know they don't breed on site, and I've come in here in the evenings. When that one was here in May, I came here in the evenings to try and hear their display, but it wasn't displaying. So the snipe have got this fantastic display where they actually vibrate their outer tail feathers, and it's actually called drumming. And I'm not going to do the sound, but it's absolutely incredible.
I heard it on the internet before I came, and it is a really weird vibrating, kind of almost not bird-like.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah. Will we hear that today?
No, because that's in the breeding season. So they arrive here in July, the first ones. The peak numbers are normally October, November time, so it's a really good passage through in November, and then some keep going south right down to Spain, and we know that because we've had 3 snipe from here have subsequently, unfortunately, been shot in Spain. Sad though that is, it at least teaches us that some snipe are passing through.
Yes.
But also on top of that, we've had some snipe where I get them year upon year upon year here. They keep returning. So therefore, those birds are showing superb sight fidelity. So just like, for instance, the Buick Swans at Slimbridge that everyone knows, where those Buick Swans come back to Slimbridge every year, we've got snipe that do the same. They just don't live for 20 years and things like Buick Swans. But I've had snipe here that are 6 years old, 7 years old, 2 to 3 to 4 years old is completely usual for snipe here. But the only thing is, I've never ever had a snipe from here recovered elsewhere. So I've got no idea where these breed. So at some stage we're going to hopefully put some tags on them, whereby we can work out where our sniper.
So these are like radio tags,
GPS tags. So to do those, you have to recapture the bird, and that again is where, to be honest, the thermal really comes in, because that then gives us the better chances of improving our catch rate. That's what we want to do. The more we can catch, the more we can recatch.
And are you seeing a change in numbers? Is it a healthy population on the rise?
Yeah. Here they're doing very well. We've got, last year our peak count was 40. This year our peak count so far is 29. They vary year to year. It's been a mild winter, so a lot of these could probably still be on the continent now. So yeah, it's very good. And because I can now watch with the thermal by day, I can see exactly where they're coming from, or where they're roosting. I now know exactly how to prepare the best day roost habitat as possible for these. my next piece of work, and anyone who knows me knows I never stop still, is that these birds are roosting here by day. So where are they feeding at night? Now, elsewhere in Wiltshire, I've actually worked out where a small population of snipe are sat by day, and I've now re-caught those birds by finding out where they were at night. And those snipe are moving about 3 miles between nighttime feeding and daytime roosting. So that tells me that these snipe are probably feeding out in some fields somewhere within 3 miles from here. Now, there's a lot of development in Swindon, so actually what I need to do is to find those fields to maybe try and get those fields protected. Otherwise our snipe could decline through no fault of our own.
Yeah.
People often don't think about that, don't think about what a bird does by day and what some of these birds, what they do at night. It can be entirely different. Now,
Yes. Yeah.
on the side, what's interesting, if you look through these ducts,
Yeah.
through the thermal at these ducts, you see the first line of mallards there,
Yep.
and then the bird just behind them is a little grebe, otherwise known as a dabchick.
Yep.
And it always amazes me with all these birds how you can see how the head is warm, the body is cooler. But interestingly, a very common duck here, the thermal was absolutely essential for identifying a phenomenon that I never knew. So the black and white duck, tufted duck, really, really common. There's none on the lake here at the moment. My peak count by day was 13, ever. And they're regular in winter, but only up to about 13, normally 4 or 5. Last year I came here in the evening, just after dusk, and I looked out with the thermal on this lake,
Yep.
and it was absolutely full of tufted ducks. There must have been 90 tufted ducks. And these tufted ducks, I worked out, they are sat by day on another lake. I've got no idea where. And then they're coming in at night to sit here in safety. They don't feed. They use it, so they're feeding. They're doing the opposite of the snipe. They're feeding by day somewhere else, and they're coming into this lagoon at night.
It's quite protected as well, I would guess, from
It is.
kind of
Yeah.
a lot of environmental
It is.
kind of prevailing winds and rain and stuff like that. It's a nice spot.
And the really kind of satisfying thing with that was that I've designed a lot of habitats over the years, and this lake is the very first lake that I ever actually designed. Before I was here, this was a really weedy wasteland.
What have you called it? You must have a name.
No, I've
You've
really,
not given it a name.
Do you know what? When it comes to names, I'm really boring. This is the main scrape. How boring is that? But I designed this one, and one of the things I did is that I dug it out. I didn't dig it out, but I got people to dig it out deep at that far end. And my idea was that this site is really good for birds that like shallow water. So I deliberately created this deep water. And for 25 years since, it's never produced really anything that likes deep water, as far as I was aware.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly last year I found all these tufted duck at night. So I did get it right, but I just never knew. Which
And you'd only discovered that
with the thermal.
because
You'd
of
never
thermal.
have known.
Mm.
Tufted duck, if you look at tufted ducks on the lake by day, they've got a very distinctive profile, a big tall sort of neck and a rounded head. Very distinctive, even if you saw it just in silhouette. And so when I looked through here, I could clearly see they were all tufted ducks. So again, that's where thermaling is interesting, because it can show you, for instance, how wildfowl use different water bodies by day and night. So you could come here by day and see, well, there's one little grebe, there's 4 mallard, there's 2 swans, there's a moorhen and a coot. At night you could come here and there could be 90 tufted duck and 50 teal. And that's really important when you're surveying places to protect them, because if you imagine you're called in to do a bird survey for a lake where they're going to put some houses or do some building or whatever, well, the daytime's only half a day. So at night, you can have something completely different using it. And I think it's really important that actually for a lot of surveys that people survey both day and night, because that place is used 24 hours a day. It's not just used for a few hours in the daytime.
It sounds like thermal is an essential piece of kit for people with more of an ecological interest in surveying and monitoring populations and monitoring habitats. Is it a valuable bit of kit to people who've got a more casual interest in birds?
I think it depends what your inquiring mind is. So the thing with thermals is that price is obviously a major factor. But if you're someone that maybe likes to go out and have an evening walk, and some people do, then I would say a thermal would be an unbelievable addition, because it's going to bring nighttime alive to you. So 2 or 3 times a year I actually do nocturnal safaris, I call them, where
Brilliant.
I take people out and I show them through the thermal, because that just brings the nighttime alive to them. So later on this evening when we go out, the farmer's joining us, and I've done this with loads of farmers, because they get to see what's on their land at night.
What sort of things are you spotting with them?
Skylarks, but probably my favourite one was when with one farmer we found grey partridge on his land for the first time in over 20 years. So we caught the partridge, we ringed it, measured it, weighed it, and when we then released it, I got the farmer to release it, and you got this late 70-year-old farmer, and he's in tears as he's releasing a grey partridge, because it meant so much to him.
Yeah.
On that farm now, they've changed some of their management practices, and they've now got over 20 grey partridge. So they've gained from 1 originally, and they've now up to 20 in the last 3 years. They've increasing.
And the only thing they've done is to make the habitat more friendly for the partridge.
Yeah.
Because they now know that some partridge like it.
And I was able to show him. I was able to show him and tangibly say, look, this bird is here because you're putting it over winter stubbles. This bird is here because you've got your long margins, because you've listened to my advice. That's why this bird's here. And then all he's going to do is do it more. So do you know what I did last year? Absolutely brilliant. So I brought the farmer out, who's now just handed farm over to his daughter. And his daughter last year came out to join me thermaling with her 8-year-old son.
Wow.
And he didn't see the grey partridge, but he did get to hold a skylark that we caught in the evening.
Beautiful.
But again, that young chap is probably going to be running the farm in 20 years' time. And I think that our current generation of farmers never had anyone like that to kind of go, this is yours in the future. There's wildlife, and there's farming, and there's food.
Yeah, that will have inspired him, won't it, to actually have an
Really
interest
hope so.
in the whole ecosystem on that
Really,
farm.
really hope so. And this is the thing. So thermaling brings the nighttime alive. So for me, as an ecologist, as a conservationist, I can survey snipe without disturbing them. When I do disturb them, I want to disturb them to the best possible value in terms of the efficiency of it. It shows us that there's birds that we never even knew were there sometimes. But also to be able to bring the nighttime alive to the public, but also to show them that farmland isn't dead. I mean, we're seeing harvest mice wandering up, climbing up stems. You're seeing, foxes, hedgehogs.
And it sounds like you're really good at putting those bits of the jigsaw together of understanding the important parts of the habitat.
You can farm for food and you can farm for nature. What I like the idea of is making a space for nature. So that might mean having a nice grass margin. It might mean looking at what you've got and creating some specialist habitats just for those birds. And that's what the thermal gives me, is I can say to that farmer, you've got these birds, that bird and this bird, and the best habitat for those is like this. And they can be really specific and really targeted in what they do to help those few they've got. So you can have a conventional high intensity farm, but it still can be brilliant for wildlife. You could have a relatively wild organic farm and it can be terrible for wildlife. Equally, it can be brilliant for wildlife. So whether you are conventional or you're organic, you can still do it right or wrong both ways. And surveys show that.
What's the incentive for the farmer beyond, I don't know, inspiring them as an 8-year-old and then falling in love with it? Is there any other incentive for the farmers to go, yes, I will make sure that habitat exists, to encourage more on?
They can get money through stewardships to improve habitats like that. Most farmers will tell you that they are tied to the land.
Yes.
The phrase that we hear a lot and I like is that they are the steward of the land. They're going to pass that land on
custodian.
to someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to pass it on to someone else.
Yeah.
And you want to pass on that wildlife onto the next generation, but also is that you hopefully get that affinity to the land. So many farmers after the Second World War were just told it's all about growing, ripping out hedgerows, everything.
Yes.
Now they're realising that they're part of this whole sort
ecosystem,
of circle of
yes,
life.
yes.
And actually wildlife has a really important role in that. And in fact, in many cases, you do need to have the wildlife there, the birds and insects on there to help your farming.
Yeah.
Because it'll help, like the birds will eat the pests.
Yes.
So you've got to think of it in a wider context like that. So every tool that I can use as a local, and I'm only a volunteer conservationist, everything I can do to educate and inform the farmer, I will do. So whether that's taking a photograph, whether it's through bird ringing and showing a retract, showing how birds move the land, whether it's showing through the thermal camera to show them birds on their land, I'll use the whole suite to bring them on board and hopefully inspire. There are those farmers you're never going to inspire, but everyone that's an open book, generally speaking, they love this and they really, really take it on.
If anyone was interested to pick up what you do as a hobby, how would they go about that?
So on the BTO website, they have a Find a Trainer page.
And that's the British Trust for Ornithology. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
they've got a Find a Trainer page, and then you can find a trainer near you and it will show whether they are taking on or not taking on trainees. And then you can contact that trainer, have a chat about what you expect of bird ringing or looking to get from bird ringing, what you can give to bird ringing, and to see what the trainer is doing. So I've just had someone else contact me just this week actually, and I'm due to phone them to kind of give them all the detail about what's involved.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that it is very heavily involved. I mean, for me, it's a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
But you're up really early, you go to bed really late, you squeeze it in whenever you can.
Right.
But in my ringing team that work across North Wiltshire, I've got over 10 people, but I think it's about 15 people of various stages of ringing competency that I train. So people that are just in the very early processes of starting training. I've got 2 folks that have been going for a year, and I've got people that I've been training since 2010. So I've got quite a large and diverse team, and so we're out both days every weekend. So we normally got about 5 of us coming out. So whereas I do like to go out on my own as well, that's more of the unusual, because normally I'm surrounded by a team.
I see. And the kind of commitment for someone that wanted to start to do this would be maybe a couple of days a week or a couple of evenings a week, is it, or something, or maybe a morning and an evening? And
most people will say for bird ringing that they'd like to be available twice a month.
Oh, okay.
And most bird ringing trainers would say a minimum of twice per month, because otherwise you take one step forward, one step back.
Yeah.
It becomes quite addictive.
Yeah.
So it starts to take over. For me, myself, I used to play a lot of sport, got injured, couldn't play sport, so I got into bird ringing. I was a bird watcher beforehand, and my bird ringing was always both mornings of a weekend, and there may be some early mornings in the week before work or after work. And then this thing called thermal imaging completely ruined the whole thing, because now I can be out in the dark. And I'm now going out 2 or 3 times a week in the evening. So whereas other people might go for a dog walk, I go for a thermal imaging walk.
Right. And how long are you out for in an evening?
2 or 3, 4 hours.
Right.
So last Friday I went out and I did 5 hours and I walked 10,000 steps.
Wow.
And I ringed a few birds, not very many.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll be going out this Friday. And again, that will be 3 or 4 hours. But if it looks like I can't go mist netting on Sunday, which is looking like I can't, there's every chance on Saturday night that I will leave the house at about 6:30 in the evening, and I won't get back in till at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
There's every chance.
Your passion for it just exudes from it. It's coming out of every pore. You can see why you keep doing it.
I know, it's terrible because I'm so tired the next day. It's just like when you take a dog for a walk, a big walk, and a dog on the day loves it.
Yeah.
The next day they're so tired.
Yeah.
That's me.
Right.
So, but about 3 or 4 times a year, I will go out and I'll do an all-nighter. And so it's really funny because thermal imaging with catching, a lot of ringers call it dazzling.
Yeah.
So I'll tell people I'm out on the dazzle tonight, and I'm not going near a pub or alcohol at all. But I'm
That's
probably
a good night out for you, though.
Yeah, and I'm probably having the same length of it. Well, in fact, a longer evening than them, but we're still getting back at the same time.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
If you'd like to see more videos like how we got on dazzling with Matt, then subscribe. Or visit tj-focus.co.uk to check out what Matt got up to in Mongolia, Mexico and Peru with the Pulsar mergers. You can also find product details there. Thanks Evan for filming today, and thank you for watching. I'm Dave at Thomas Jacks.